Hello and welcome to the Project 2 CAD video. My name is Stephen Thompson and this is CNC Beginner's Guide. And today we're going to go over how to draw the 3D CAD model of Project 2 from a 2D dimension drawing in Autodesk Fusion. Now, it's not entirely necessary to know how to do CAD drawing, 3D modeling, in order to do CNC programming or to program a CNC machine. But I find that it's really helpful. I use it all the time. I go back and forth between my CAD and my CAM, and it just really comes in handy. So it's kind of part of this series, and well, yeah, why don't we just get into it? Okay, so we have opened up Autodesk Fusion here, and I'm going to take a look at the 2D drawing for this CAD model. Now, I'm just going to kind of look at some general things about it. It looks like we have it's a block here with features on top, and it looks like it has a hole that goes all the way through, and the hole is a threaded hole or a tapped hole right here. It is 2 inches long, 0.9 inches wide, and looks like 0.625 inches tall. It's 0.5 plus 0.125. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the rectangle that is 2 by 0.9, and I'm going to extrude it 0.5. Okay, so go back to Fusion, and I'm going to start with a sketch. So create sketch. Select a plane, any plane, doesn't matter. We'll set the actual coordinate systems for machining later. Doesn't have to match the coordinates for modeling. Those are kind of unrelated. So let's click a plane, and let's start with a rectangle. So I'm going to go create rectangle. You could do, and R is the hotkey for a 2-point rectangle, which is kind of where I start with. Has if you click the top left corner and then drag out to the bottom right corner, but I like to actually do center rectangle. It's nice because it puts the center of the rectangle, which will be the center of our part, at the origin. So I'm going to click on the origin point and pull the rectangle away from there. I'm going to say 2 inches, and then hit tab to go to the other one, and 0.9, and enter. Okay, it looks good. You notice that I entered the values while I was making the geometry. You can also go to this sketch dimension here, and if you forgot to add any geometries before you had clicked enter, you can change them or set them by using a sketch dimension here. We'll do that on the next round. Okay, so go ahead and click finish sketch, and now I want to extrude this. I'm going to go to create extrude, or hotkey E. Automatically selects that geometry, but notice that in this dialog box here, where next to profiles, it's highlighted. That's what it's kind of asking for you to define, but it already kind of picked the one thing that there's already one geometry in there. So we're going to change this value to 0.5 and make sure it's new body, and click OK. Okay, step 1 done. Let's go back and take a look at our drawing. Okay, so it looks like, what should we do? We can do, let's do these borers around the edges. It looks like they are right here 0.3 inches in diameter, and they are 0.2 inches away from each edge, and they go down 0.1. Okay, so 0.2, 0.3, and 0.1. Easy. Let's go back to Fusion, and I'm going to create a new sketch, and this time do it on top of this top surface of the object. Okay, and I'm going to create a circle. So I'm going to go create a circle, center diameter circle, or hit C on your keyboard. And there's a couple ways of doing this. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of draw a circle in about the right area. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to pull that away, and I'm just going to write 0.3. That's a diameter of 0.3, and hit enter. Okay, so now I can actually drag this geometry around because it's not constrained to anything, right? It's not bound to anything in particular. So what I can do now is I'm going to dimension this away from the side. So I'm going to go to create that thing we were talking about earlier, sketch dimension, or D hotkey on your keyboard. The circle is already selected, so it's already prompting me to select a dimension. If I just clicked right now, it would be trying to define the diameter again, and it would be over constrained. But I need to constrain it to one of these edges. So pick one of the edges and click and pull that away. And then that's going to be 0.2 and enter. And if sketch dimension is still selected, then you can click the center of the circle again, and then the edge, and then click again, and 0.2. You can always modify these too after you've made them. You could double click them, and then you can change them again. Okay, so I could do that same thing that I just did, where I draw a circle on all four corners, but there is a trick that I like to use, and we're going to be mirroring these geometries. So in order to mirror them, I need something to mirror them around, and for two-dimensional objects, you can mirror over a line, like a two-dimensional line. So what I'm going to do is going to go create and line, and I want to make a construction line. I use construction lines a lot. I really like them. It's basically a dotted line instead of a solid line, so that it just uses it for like kind of geometry reference, and we won't use it for like extrusion reference. So for line type, I'm going to click right here next to it, construction, in the sketch palette. And my line's still selected. And now what I want to do is I want to hover over this top edge of the block and go towards the center until I get to the very center, and I can see that triangle. What that triangle means is that I've reached the midpoint of that edge. I can try this edge over here, and I can see I could reach the midpoint of that as well, which happens to be on, that axis, the x-axis that goes through the origin. So I'm going to draw two lines. I'm going to draw one from this midpoint of the right side. I click and drag it over, and midpoint of the left side, and click again. And then same thing, top to bottom. I'm going to click on the midpoint of the top edge and go down and click on where it kind of snaps into place on the midpoint of the bottom. Okay, and now we could see that actually, so it's still thinking I want to draw another line. I'm done with my lines. I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard, and notice that little icon next to your mouse goes away, and it's just a regular selector. Now we can see that I have here 4 constraints, and if your geometry is constrained at all in an automatic way, like it's maybe constrained to a midpoint or something, then you'll get this little symbol that shows up next to it telling you what kind of constraint it is. If you look up here in the constraints menu, these are all different types of constraints that are available. So things will happen automatically, or things that you can add later. Make 2 lines parallel, make 2 lines perpendicular, fix something to a midpoint, make 2 circles concentric, make 2 lines on the same line, collinear. So this comes in handy in particular because this is something that is, I think, unique to Fusion, maybe not, but it's in other software I've been able to, like, let's say I wanted this circle right on this edge. If you try and click it and hit 0, it won't do it. Some software you can do that, but in Fusion you can't. Instead, what you would have to do in Fusion is that you would have to go to constraint and say like coincident, and then say I want this circle to be coincident to this line, and it would line up the center of that circle to that edge. It won't do it right now because it's already constrained, fully constrained in its position, and I can't add more constraints. So I can't make it 0.2 inches from this edge and then another distance from this edge, because the distance that it is from this edge is defined by the distance from this edge plus the kind of size of the object. So that's over constraining. Okay, so now we want to mirror this object across these lines. So I'm going to go to create and mirror, and I get the mirror dialog box that kind of shows up here. And I'm going to click on the circle. Make sure the circle is highlighted. Sometimes when you're mirroring things, it likes to just select the dot at the center, but we want the actual circle. And for mirror line, click on there and click this say vertical line, and there it goes. And click OK. All right, now we want to mirror these two across this bottom line here. So we're going to go to create, or it's right here actually, mirror. Objects, I'm going to select 1 and 2. I think this will work. Click for mirror line, click select, and click the horizontal line, and there we go. Okay. All right, go ahead and click OK. All right, there are other ways of doing it, but that's how you do it with a mirror. So we're going to finish the sketch, and we have our 4 holes or 4 circles here, and we're going to extrude them. So create, extrude. I'm going to select each circle, 3 and 4, and I believe it is -0.1. Should be -0.1. Yep, and cut. Okay, we're going to click OK. All right, so let's take a look at the next thing. If we go back to the drawing, we can see that we have corner radius around on each of those vertical edges is 0.125. So let's do that. What that is, that corner, how do I get a corner radius? I have to add a what's known as a fillet. So I'm going to go, that's in the modify section. I'm going to go to modify, fillet. And then click on the edges you want to fillet. So in this case, the vertical edge here, vertical edge back here, vertical edge here. And an interesting thing with a fillet tool is you can actually select through an object. So if I kind of hover over where this vertical line is, I can see it through the object. I can also, you know, orbit around and select it like that as well. And make it 0.125. Okay. Click OK. All right, we are getting close. So let's go back. Next thing we have is we have this hexagon that's kind of centered on the center of this part, and we have it's got 2 walls on it, and the outer wall goes to the outer edge, it looks like, and then the inner wall is 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 offset from the outer wall. Okay, so it's a little confusing, but let's give it a try. Let's go back to Fusion, so 0.125, okay. And then it has a corner radius on all the edges of 0.125. So let's go back to Fusion. And so what I'm doing is create a sketch on the top surface here. So create sketch, select the top surface. Okay, and what I want to create now is a polygon. So go to create polygon, and it's always hard to know what do we want to do here. I think I want a circumscribed polygon. Let's try that. Yeah, let's try that. Click on the center, the origin. So this is another reason why it was nice for us to draw this part with this, starting with a center rectangle, or center rectangle, and starting at the origin, is because now some of these other geometries we can start from the origin as well. So I'm going to click on the origin and pull this out, and I can see that we have you can define the size of the polygon and the number of sides. So it actually is already 6, but you can make it a 5 or a 4, which is just a square, or an 8. We are going to make it 6. And instead of defining the length here, we're just going to go all the way to the edge, and this is going to snap, geometry is going to snap to the midpoint of the upper edge or the lower edge. And then click. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, let's take a look at the drawing again. We want to offset another hexagon 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go back to Fusion, and I'm going to, instead of drawing another hexagon, I could draw another hexagon, and then I could set that dimension, but I really like to use offset. So I'm going to modify offset, or O hotkey, and I'm going to select this hexagon, and I'm going to pull it inward, and I can see, and the reason I have to pull it is to kind of see which side's negative and which side's positive, and Fusion always kind of randomly selects which side of some random line you select is positive and negative. So I just know that the direction I want to go is inside, and it looks like it's negative. So I'm going to say negative 0.125, and click or hit enter or click. All right. I'm going to click finish sketch. All right. Take a look at the drawing again. It looks like it comes up 0.125, and then has corner radius on every sharp vertical edge is 0.125. So a lot of 0.125s going on here. Let's go back to Fusion, and I'm going to click extrude, click on that geometry, and say 0.125, and make sure it says join. That's what you want. And click OK. All right, and now we got to give a curve to all those edges. So we're going to do fillets. So I'm going to do modify and fillet, and start selecting edges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get in there. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And make it 0.125. All right, and click OK. So those are all our edges filleted. Last thing to do is to make a hole in the center. So it looks like here there's a hole that goes all the way through the object. Has a angle of the countersink is 82 degrees, which is consistent with Imperial hardware. And it looks like the top of the countersink is 0.3 inches, but it is a quarter 20 thread. So we got to make a hole there that is that thread with these dimensions. So to do that, let's go to Fusion, and we want to use the hole tool. Instead of like drawing a circle and extruding it and then like giving it a chamfer, the hole tool is actually really great because you can specify threads. You can even, and yeah, you can do all kinds of things. But what it needs is a specific point. And if I were to select the hole tool and then select this surface here, it would just put it wherever I happen to click on there. So I need some geometry to reference at the center. So a couple ways of doing it, but we can create a sketch. I'm going to make a sketch right here on that surface in the very center, and I'm just going to say create point. You can make a circle, you can make a point, any kind of geometry that's has something you can select, and I'm going to select the origin and finish sketch. So now I can see a little point there at the origin where I want my hole, and then I can go up here to the hole tool and click on that. Okay, so it says face/sketch points, and I'm going to select the point that I made in that last drawing. Okay, and here it is. So now we need to really specify all this stuff so that it matches the drawing. Okay, so extends distance, that's fine. This thing we don't have to go to like just the bottom of, we can go to just the bottom of this, but it can go longer. We can go further than the bottom. That's totally fine because it's not going to do anything down here. It's not going to cut away because there's nothing there. You can't always do that, but sometimes you can. Okay, hole type, we're going to say, let's see, countersink. Hole tap type, we're going to go to tapped. Thread offset full, so the thread's going to go all the way through. Drill point, this one doesn't matter. whether it's flat on the bottom or it's angle on the bottom, because it's gonna go all the way through. Okay, so again, this depth here doesn't matter so much, but this size here, well, actually the first thing we should do is we actually should change the type of hole. So right now it's like a 1/2 inch hole, right? But we want to go to a 1/4 inch hole. So for size, change 1/2 inch to 0.25, and then it automatically designates it as 1/4 but there's also these other 1/4 thread pitches that you can select from. But 1/4 is the most common, so we're going to use that. It's right-handed, and now we can specify here the top of the countersink is 0.3 from the drawing. Okay, yeah, so there's our hole, and we can see that we have our countersink at the correct size, at the correct angle, 82 degrees, and then it says this is, and this is a 1/4 hole, but 0.202 is actually the size of the starter hole for 1/4 thread, so that's good. You notice you could kind of see these like thread type things in here. So it has those in there just to kind of let you know that it's a threaded hole. You can actually have it model in the threads. Like say you were going to 3D print this and you wanted the actual threads. In order to do that, you have to check this modeled option down here, and it would actually put them into the model. We don't want that option because we want to be able to select the geometry of this hole without having to make sure we're not selecting like this surface or this surface or this surface or this surface. So we want it to really just be a cylinder, simple geometry that we can select while we're in the CAM environment. But we want it to kind of keep the designation as a tapped hole just for our reference. So I'm going to uncheck the modeled section, and it's going to keep it in this like kind of smooth, unmodeled, but still referenced kind of configuration. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK. And I think that is it. Let's check the drawing again. Looks like we have 0.2 by 0.9, with the holes that are 0.3 and 0.2 from each edge, corner radius 0.25, the hexagon with the 0.125 offset, and the 1/4 hole. Okay, so that is it for CAD modeling project 2. You can see that we're kind of getting a little more complicated with each project, and so project 2 is going to be similar to project 1 for creating toolpaths, but it's going to be different in a number of ways. It's going to be a little more complex, and then we're also going to flip this over and kind of clean up the back side of this project as well. So that's going to be in the next video in this series, which is going to be project 2 CAM part 1. We'll make the setup, and then in the following videos we'll create the toolpaths, and then we will eventually make the G-code to make this object on a CNC machine. So go ahead and make your way to the next video, and I'll see you there.